Lytudiep, hello, dear friends. Today we will come to a story full of emotions and the cruelty of love when Jame's tears fall without him knowing the truth behind. The afternoon sun cast a gentle glow across the quiet countryside. Its golden light slipped through the bamboo fence that surrounded Lytudiep's modest home. James, the CEO, who once symbolized ambition and power, stood silently at her gate, a bouquet of fresh lilies trembling in his hand. He had come to make peace, to bridge the chasm caused by misunderstandings and danger. But what he saw through the small window shattered his heart. Inside, Lytudiep was gently tending the Tong, James's close friend, his arm bruised but clearly alive. Tong had saved her from thugs and market, unaware that James was outside. Lytudiep leaned in to apply pressure on his wound, her eyes full of care. Hurt. Gentle touch, her focused concern, it was undeniable to James. She had fallen for someone else. His chest tightened. The lilies slipped from his hand. 1,000 memories of nights spent dreaming under the stars with her came flooding back. Now turning into the bitter taste of illusion. Without a word, James turned and walked away, leaving behind the only person he ever truly loved. What he didn't know, however, was that everything he had seen, every misunderstood moment, was part of a plan he himself had set in motion. Months earlier, James had uncovered a vast conspiracy. John, once a trusted business partner, had embezzled millions by withdrawing investment from a hydropower project James had spearheaded. The project collapsed. Bankruptcy followed, and beneath it all, a deeper betrayal. John was connected to a shadowy drug network operating out of Thailand. He wanted revenge. Revenge for the family land James's father had seized decades ago. Knowing how dangerous John could be, James feigned illness and devised a plan to take him down. He stationed Tong near Lytudiep, not just to protect her, but to draw John out. Before leaving, James hid a recorder in the house. Later, Lytudiep stumbled upon the device and played back a conversation between James and his lawyer. In it, James outlined everything: John's crimes, his own sacrifices, and his enduring love for her. Too Deep broke down in tears. She had misunderstood everything. Now, heartbroken and furious, she took the evidence to the police. Together, with Tong and legal documentation from the failed hydropower project, they exposed John's network. The truth exploded across headlines. The CEO had gone undercover into the criminal underworld to save his company and the woman he loved. When James returned to the bamboo house, the same porch where he once turned away in despair, he found Too Deep already at the door. She had opened it before he could even knock. No words were needed. In a quiet embrace, they forgave, they remembered, they healed. Later that night, James sat with Too Deep on the porch, the air cool, scented with jasmine. "I thought you loved him," he whispered, voice raw. "I was grateful to him for saving me." Too Deep replied, her eyes glistening, "But I only ever loved you." James looked down, ashamed. "I walked away when I should have trusted you. Even though it was all my plan, my heart jumped to conclusions." Too Deep reached out and held his hand. "You've been fighting alone for too long. You forgot. We can fight together." The next morning, police arrested John at the port as he tried to flee the country. The recorder James had planted in the hospital caught John confessing everything, from financial fraud to drug operations. Combined with Tong's testimony and forensic evidence, the case was airtight. Days later, at a public press conference, James stood beside the police commissioner, his name cleared. He didn't speak of revenge. He didn't speak of power. Instead, he spoke of rebuilding, not with old investors, but with the people, the farmers, the engineers, the laborers who had suffered most. "This land deserves the best," James said, his voice steady. "We will rise again, not for profit, but for our community." Too Deep watched from the wings, pride swelling in her chest. This was the James she had always known, not just a businessman, but a man of honor. After the speech, James walked toward her, reached into his coat. "Not for flowers this time, but for a small velvet box. I once promised you lilies," he said, kneeling, voice trembling. "But today, I bring a greater promise. Marry me, Too Deep. Let's build everything, a home, a life, a future, together." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she nodded, too moved to speak. Applause broke out behind them. Tong stood silently, smiling, proud to see his friend finally find peace. But peace, like all things, was fleeting. One cloudy afternoon in her new office, while reviewing documents for the company's social development department, Too Deep received a phone call. The voice on the other end was low and rough. "You may have brought John down," the caller said. but you haven't seen the last of those who funded him. The line went dead. Lytudiep froze. That voice wasn't John's. She told James everything. His face darkened. He walked to the bookshelf and pulled down a file labeled Project Omega. Inside were confidential reports, offshore shell companies, international money transfers, and a name she recognized. A charming businessman, one who used to strum a guitar in the village, talking of harmony and tradition. He had once shown interest in Lytudiep. And now, it seemed, he was linked to the very shell companies that had funded John. He played the good guy, James muttered. But I think he's trying to finish what John started, this time through legal means. I want proof, Lytudiep said. We're doing this together. Days later, at a lavish corporate event hosted by the businessman's firm, James and Lytudiep entered arm in arm. Their expressions calm, their eyes alert. They exchanged pleasantries, raised glasses. But beneath the tablecloth, James was recording every word. Later that night, as the party ended and they were escorted out, the businessman leaned toward Lytudiep and murmured, "If you ever tire of the chaos, my door is always open." James's jaw clenched, but Lytudiep smiled politely. "Thank you, but I love my country." Back at their apartment, they played the recording. "We'll move the funds as soon as the new contract signed." No one will suspect a thing, especially James. He thinks the war ended with John. Silence filled the room. James leaned back, eyes narrowing. So he was the puppet master all along. Lytudiep placed a hand on his arm. "Now we hold the strings." In a world where ambition and power often blur the lines between right and wrong, the story of James and Lytudiep stands as a testament to one enduring truth, no matter how deeply buried. The truth will always find its way to the surface. Their love, rooted in trust and loyalty, proved to be more than just emotion. It became a shield against betrayal, a guide through heartbreak, and the key to justice. James was not only a man of vision, but of conscience. And Lytudiep was not just his partner in love, but his mirror in strength. Together, they didn't conquer through power or force. But through unity, perseverance, and courage. As spring returned, so did they to the city, to the company that now pulsed with renewed energy. Young engineers, farmers, and innovators gathered daily, building a future rooted in sustainability and ethics. The collapse of the hydropower project had taught them all one thing: Development without conscience is destruction. James kept his promise. He handed leadership roles to those once silenced. Lytudiep now led the Department for Social Development. Focusing on education and women's empowerment in rural areas. And still, the whispers of darkness lingered at the edge of light, but they no longer walked in fear, for love had returned and truth had prevailed. And in a world that rarely guarantees peace, James and Lytudiep had learned one thing. Justice is not always loud. Sometimes it comes quietly. Through resilience, through hope, and through the unwavering strength of walking side by side. Thank you for following the emotional story that lies behind.